Our next speaker for today is Quisha Umemba. Quisha is the CEO of Umemba Health, which is an AI powered public health workforce development training and consulting firm that helps health focused organizations as well as mission driven leaders build, deliver, and scale high impact learning experiences using proven curriculum design and AI innovation. She's a registered nurse, a public health practitioner, an Amazon best-selling author, and a recognized AI literacy and workforce development expert. Quisha brings a rare blend of health expertise, instructional innovation, and AI fluency to every stage and classroom she steps into. She's widely known as the AI translator, and she helps leaders and learners cut through complexity to find clarity and positions herself as the missing piece of the AI puzzle. Her talk today is titled Copilot Without the Chaos: How to Prepare Your People, Policies, and Processes for AI. Let's get ready to give Quisha a warm welcome to the summit.
Hello, and thank you so much for attending my session today. I'm talking about Copilot Without the Chaos, a leadership first approach to organizational readiness by looking at your people, your policies, and your processes. So hopefully you know that Microsoft Copilot is an artificial intelligence tool that's built directly into your Microsoft 365 stack. I'm talking about your apps like Outlook, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and Teams. Copilot is a thinking and productivity assistant inside of your everyday tools. And I'll share a little bit more about that later. But what I want to talk about in this presentation is Copilot without the chaos, because Copilot doesn't create chaos. What creates chaos is rolling out AI without leadership clarity. So, we're going to talk about Microsoft Copilot today, not from a technical perspective, but from a leadership one, because the success or failure of your Copilot launch in your organization does not hinge on the tool itself. It hinges on how well your organization prepares its people, policies, and processes to use it responsibly. With that said, let me introduce myself. My name is Quisha Umemba. I am the CEO of Umemba Health. We are an AI powered public health workforce development firm. We help mission driven organizations and leaders transform knowledge into scalable learning assets by leveraging AI tools effectively. And our services include AI literacy training and integration consulting, learning design and course creation, of course, workforce development, specifically community health worker capacity building. We also do curriculum licensing. Now, I am a registered nurse. I've been a nurse for 22 years now. I'm a public health practitioner. I've been in public health for half of that time. I am an Amazon best-selling author of the first book written on public health entrepreneurship. I'm also a certified AI consultant and AI trainer, and that is the lens that I will be speaking to you today during this presentation. Now, at Umemba Health, we lead with something called AI stewardship. And in the spirit of AI stewardship, I have to be transparent about how AI is used in our business. And right now, I'd like to share with you that parts of this presentation have been developed with the support of AI tools. But just like I'm going to be sharing with you a little bit later, all content examples and final decisions have been reviewed and approved by a human, by myself. So I just wanted to share that with you, and hopefully you will model something very similar within your organization as well. Now, let's talk about why this conversation that we're having today matters. Okay. I talk to a lot of leaders every single day, and most of you share the same concerns. Things like you don't want your staff guessing what's allowed when it comes to AI. You don't want the quality of your products and your programs to slip because we're using AI. You don't want privacy concerns because of AI or compliance risk because of AI. You certainly don't want to introduce a tool that actually creates more work for management, right? I'm speaking to my leaders there in the audience. Now, at the same time, you don't want all of these things happening, but you do see some opportunity that lies with AI. You see fewer hours spent on drafting documents, faster summaries, less administrative burden, and just just to name a few. And so if you're feeling this tension right now, that tension, if I can name it, is what I would say a space that exists between risk and opportunity. And that tension is a leadership issue. It is not a technology issue. Uh-oh, my slide. There we go. So sorry about that. Now, this is the chaos that leaders are trying to avoid right now. Copilot doesn't fail because of technology, right? We just said this is not a technology issue. This is a leadership issue. And so your Copilot launch in your organization, if it does fail or if it has failed, it's because you did not have a readiness playbook. And so you find yourself riding this wave, hopefully treading water and hoping that you don't sink because you've noticed that Copilot is already in use in your organization, whether it's been permitted or not, right? You've got members that are informally using it. You understand that the danger isn't adoption, it's uncoordinated use without shared language and shared expectations. And again, there's not been any clarity. You yourself as the leader don't have clarity. So you certainly understand that your staff, your team does not have clarity either. And that's where readiness starts. So let's level set here for a second before we go any further. And I want to talk about what Copilot is and what Copilot is not. Okay. So I've already shared with you that Microsoft Copilot is your productivity assistant. It is built directly into your Microsoft 365 stack, and it does things like help you draft documents and emails and summarize. It analyzes things. It organizes information using the context that people already work in and the content that people already work in. I love that it uses this grounding feature to pull from all of those different applications to create new content for me, right? But here is the part that leaders need to anchor when they're rolling this out in their organization. One, Copilot does not think independently or decide what's truly valuable or important for your organization. Okay. Secondly, it does not replace your professional judgment or critical human insight. Okay. It does not decide what matters. And a good, helpful way to think about Copilot or think about AI in general is that Copilot sits in the passenger seat. But as you see in the picture on this slide, your people, your leadership, they stay in the driver's seat. So Copilot is going to draft, it's going to assist, but the human is always going to lead and stay in control. Okay. Now, Copilot changes how work is produced, but it does not change who is responsible for it. And I think a lot of times teams and leaders have a hard time understanding that just because you're using a particular tool and it will change the workflow or it may change the timeline that that finished product is delivered, it doesn't change responsibility for it. Okay. So, yes, it's going to accelerate the work, it's going to speed things up for you. Hopefully, it's going to improve the quality, right? But accuracy is still your job. You still have to keep a human in the loop. And so when it comes to things like tone and compliance and judgment and looking to see whether or not there's any bias detected, right? No tool can substitute human discretion when it comes to those things or when it comes to making high stakes decisions. Now, organizational readiness is the core of this talk today, and it's often misunderstood when we talk about launching a pilot like Copilot, right? Readiness is not how many licenses you've purchased for your staff. Even if you've purchased a license for everybody to access Copilot within your organization, just because you buy Copilot and you make it accessible for your team does not make your organization organization ready? Okay. Readiness is not rollout emails. Readiness is not, this is our go live date, right? Those are transactions. Deployment is a transaction. Readiness is a leadership discipline. It is built before rollout, not after the confusion sets in, and it lives in three places. So, people, do your staff know what good AI use looks like? Good Copilot use looks like? Policies, do they understand clear guardrails related to the use of that particular tool and processes? Is there a shared way that work is reviewed and approved? And do they know what that looks like? So, have you set clear expectations in your organizations? Have you defined that shared language and made it available to everyone in your organization? Have guardrails been identified? And are the leaders modeling good AI use? Because if not, you should be. That's where it starts. When any one of these is missing, that's where you see chaos filling the gap. So there are three places where leaders must prepare first, okay? Your people, your policies, and your processes. And every co-pilot readiness issue shows up in one or of three of these places, all three of these places essentially. Let's talk about these one by one. So, Copilot adoption, it doesn't start with the prompts, right? I know prompts are what's popular and what's talked about the most when we're using AI, but your Copilot adoption starts and stops with your people. Okay. Leaders shape how teams use AI through what you clarify, through what you model. We just talked about that, and through what you reinforce. Your staff do not need to be experts in AI before they can use it. They don't need to be perfect. You don't need to expect perfection. But what they do need is permission and boundaries, not one or the other. Permission and boundaries need to come together. And I've talked to many organizations, many team members that said, hey, I've got a Copilot license, or they sent an email and said Copilot was available and we could begin using it, right? They got the permission, which is great, but there were no boundaries around it. There were no guidelines around it. And what's worse, there was no training around how to use this, right? And so your team needs both permission and boundaries together. And they need clear answers to questions like, what type of task is Copilot okay to support, right? So, what kind of use cases make the most sense for us to be utilizing Copilot in our day to day work? They also need clear answers to questions like, what always requires human review? What are some things that we can send out of the door with just a quick glance, right? Because everything really, in my opinion, requires human view. But what really does someone, a manager or team leader, need to sit with and give a full, um, thorough look or observation before it actually is allowed to go out of the door, especially if it's going to be public facing, right? Where should or what should never be entered into the AI tool, which is before anybody uses AI, they should know what should not be entered there, right? And then, just as important as some of these questions that I'm sharing with you, your staff need psychological safety to ask these questions as well. They need to know that if they are unsure, they're not going to get in trouble if there is a mistake made, or, if they have a question about how to move forward, right? And so when leaders stay silent about these things, staff fill in the gap themselves. And that's what happens when you send an email saying, hey, you've got a license to use Copilot. You can use it now. They're watching YouTube videos. They're training themselves. They're talking amongst themselves, right? And naturally, you're going to have some people in the organization that are going to be more super users and more early adopters, but you're going to have those that are not and that are really hesitant and reluctant. And so now you're going to start seeing quality and productivity change and look different among your different team members or among your different departments, because some departments will naturally flock to AI where some will not. And so you have to shape how your team is going to use this by clarifying this information to them, modeling this, and then reinforcing this information. Second is policies, right? Early Copilot policies don't need to be perfect. They just need to be clear and usable. In fact, I recommend to organizations that they have living policies, living documents that you are able to constantly change and revise as time goes on. Okay. One thing that I do see in organizations is policies that sound like legal documents instead of everyday guidance. And so I call myself the AI translator. I've been an educator for probably as long as I've been a nurse. And one of the things that I really pride myself on is being able to take complex information and make it really simple so that people know how to act on that information, whether it is making lifestyle changes or taking medication or using AI. And when you're developing these policies and setting guardrails, you really want to use simple everyday language that everybody in your organization can understand. Things like, okay, Copilot drafts, or Copilot does the first revision, or it takes the first stab, but the human reviews, the human decides, the human is still in control, right? Also, saying things like, if you wouldn't email it, don't prompt it. Right? That's a simple instruction. If you would not send this in an email, outside of our organization or either inside of the organization, then don't prompt it to give you that information, right? All Copilot assisted work is reviewed before sharing externally. This is an important one. A lot of the work that you do is just going to be internally amongst teams, amongst peers, but anything that is shared, that is public facing, that goes to stakeholders, that goes to clients or customers, that definitely needs to be reviewed before it's shared externally. And that needs to be plain language guidance. So when you use this simple language, it protects the staff, it protects the organization. I promise you, the lawyers will thank you. And last, Copilot chaos shows up in inconsistent workflows. And I'm talking specifically about your processes here. I alluded to it a little bit ago, but this looks like one person that reviews everything, another person that reviews nothing, and maybe a third person that assumes all Copilot output is good enough, right? That's not going to work. And so, as a leader, you need a clear map of when AI accelerates work and when it introduces unacceptable risk. And that alignment is what's going to prevent costly missteps. And I like to say, we don't just use AI for the sake of using AI, right? If we're going to use AI, it's going to be a documented use case of why we're using it, and we're going to provide a standardized, simple workflow for doing so, right? And that could be something as simple as start with your intention, draft it with Copilot, review for accuracy and tone or even bias, depending on your organization, right? Approve using existing rules, capture what works so the quality repeats. That's one workflow. But then as you develop the use cases, you want to come up with other workflows so that they understand what that looks like, right? So maybe we're going to develop internal training now, and that workflow looks like, okay, now we're going to create the outline in Copilot, and then we're going to ask it to create the PowerPoint presentation, or then we're going to go to this. And I will even go a step further. Your workflows will exist inside and outside of Copilot, because as more and more organizations are using AI tools now, you probably are already seeing this. You're using more than one AI tool, right? The clients that I am coaching on AI may use Copilot to draft an outline. They may go to Notebook LM to do something else. They may go to Notion for something else. We may end up in HeyGen creating a video, a training video that's external for our stakeholders. And so you want to have processes for those internal use cases where you may be using Copilot all by itself, but you also want to have those processes for where you're using other AI tools, and Copilot is in the process as well. This keeps things standardized. It helps you retain your speed without sacrificing your accountability. Okay. So, appropriate use and where it requires human authority are key when we're looking at those processes within an organization. Now, I want to name three mistakes that I see leadership teams make the most so that you can avoid them. And the first is assuming that staff just get Copilot. Okay. I know it seems like most of the world is on ChatGPT, and for the most part, if you allow them to use ChatGPT, which many organizations don't, they may just get ChatGPT because they've been using it the last year or 2 years personally, right? But Copilot is different. Sure, it is a white labeled branded version of ChatGPT, but because it's embedded in all of your tools and apps inside of Microsoft 365, there are different ways that you use it and different scenarios and use cases for different departments, right? I hardly ever use Excel and I hardly ever use the AI features in Excel. But if you work in HR, or if you work in finance, it's probably going to be one of the tools that you use the most, right? So don't just assume that your staff, that the department, that the leadership just get Copilot and understand how it works within all of the applications because they don't. And understand that without explicit guidance, your teams are going to fill in the void with inconsistent habits and assumptions. And we all know what happens when you assume, right? Secondly, what I've seen leaders make a mistake in doing is rolling out Copilot everywhere all at once without piloting and without creating abstract policies that leave people uncertain where to begin. Hopefully, you know if you're going to make any type of organizational change, you don't go grand scale. Yes, you may have 500 licenses for all of your 500 staff, but you need to start small. You need to start with one department. You need to pilot one area first, so you can roll it out, see where the kinks are, identify the use cases, and then, maybe go department by department until you can roll it out throughout the whole organization. You don't want to roll it out at one time and scale that chaos because there's a lot when it comes to AI. One of the things that I always say in my trainings is you really don't know what you don't know until you get into it. And so you want to make sure that you don't roll it out all throughout your organization at one time. And then third, expecting speed without clarity. Now, something we like to say in the AI industry is AI moves at the speed of AI. But when we work with AI, we should not just use it for the sake of speed. Efficiency gets derailed when you are using it just for the sake of moving faster, right? And we want efficiency gains to follow when people feel confident, when they feel aligned, when they know why they are using it and when and where they should be using it. So, clarity comes first, speed comes later in that order every single time. Now, I'm sorry, this is skipping. Oh, sorry about that. Now, how ready is your organization? The safest path forward, as I've just shared, is not a full rollout. It is a pilot first approach to launching Copilot or any AI tool within your organization. And what I would recommend you do is choose one or two low risk workflows. Learn where your teams are struggling the most and where that workflow can be most beneficial. Define that shared language, adjust those guardrails, and be mindful that readiness isn't about doing everything at once. It's about getting one thing right and then building from there. We've created a tool that helps leaders to identify where the gaps actually exist in their organization. It is a short assessment that surfaces blind spots before they become big rollout problems. And it's not a sales tool. It's a diagnostic tool. I'm going to give you the link to it in a couple of slides. But this is our Copilot readiness snapshot. And again, it reveals key insights that allow you to turn that awareness that hopefully I'm helping you become more aware of what's actually happening in your organization so that you can then turn that into confident action. And so as I finish up today, I want to encourage you to take the assessment, identify where your real readiness gaps are across your people, your policies, and your processes. And when you get ready for the next step, schedule a free readiness consultation with us where we can review those findings with you and provide you with helpful next steps. And I'll be honest with you, that's usually going to be a roadmap that's tailored to your organization, that's prioritizing your gaps, defining your safe pilot use cases, and designing targeted training. And we do this through a model that's called Action. And although we are a training and workforce development organization, I will say that we only provide training and consulting when and where it's useful. I don't believe in training for the sake of training. I don't believe in consulting when we don't have a clear plan. And so only after then will we recommend doing that. So here is the Copilot readiness snapshot. If you'll go ahead and use your camera, your phone camera to scan the QR code. We'll also make sure that the link to this is available as well. As a matter of fact, I'm going to put it here in the chat so we can make that available for you. Oh, come on, come on, come on, come on. There we go. It won't take you but a couple of minutes, I promise. It's just 12 questions long. And the organizations that get this right, this foundational piece right, are not the organizations that have the IT team, right? That have the best technology, that have all the newest AI tools. They're the ones that have leaders that have done the work, that have set clear expectations before deployment begins, and that have that clarity. And so, if I can leave you with anything, I will say Copilot requires leadership. Okay, it requires leadership and it requires leadership clarity. Now, the next steps are how we can support you at Umemba Health. And we lead with something called Mission Ready AI. It is a model where we provide customized training through AI skills labs, leadership sessions through AI strategy labs, and then again, those customized roadmaps as rollout support. Because our ultimate goal is to help your organization use Copilot without the chaos. So feel free to, after you complete your assessment, book a free consultation to review your results with us, discuss practical next steps, and get tailored support to your organization's unique needs. I hope that something I've said today has been valuable for you. Thank you so much for spending your time with me today. This is my contact information. I would love for you to get in touch by email, by phone. You can also visit our website, both Umemba Health and Umemba Health Academy, which is our virtual campus for public health professionals. I look forward to your questions and I hope to see you in a future summit. Thank you and have a great rest of your day and enjoy the rest of the summit.
Thank you so much to our speaker, Quisha, for her presentation on Copilot Without the Chaos. Don't forget to get that free resource that she is sharing with you using the QR code shown on the slide. If you have any questions for Quisha, use the Q&A box to drop your questions. She will respond to you personally via email after the summit. Thank you again, Quisha. Let's move to our next speaker.